Today on the MrMaple Show podcast, it's Collector's Corner with your hosts, Matt and Tim.
Konnichiwa, Maple Mafia, and welcome to the MrMaple Show podcast.
Guys, I'm Tim. That's my brother, Matt. And we're MrMaple.com. And we're a mail order family business. We ship directly to your door, and we do the largest selection of Japanese maples in the United States. We have a YouTube show, the MrMaple Show on YouTube. You can check us out there as well. And make sure you're subscribed to us here on your favorite podcast platform. We'd really appreciate it.
Guys, we're trying something new this week. We figured we'd try out a new format here. And if this catches on, maybe it's something we'll bring back each month. It's just kind of a fun format. You guys love our 10 at 10s. We drop those on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We talk about new and exciting plants on those 10 at 10s. And we don't want this to be time sensitive, but we want to do something that gives you an idea of what's new and exciting and catching our eye right now. And so we're going to do a Collector's Corner podcast. And these can be ones we can bring collectors in for in the future. I mean, maybe we'll do one of these with Brian and Sean, and we'll just kind of sit down and pick people's brain. But people love to hear about people's top fives. They love to see those top five videos and what's appealing to them. And this one is a little more, what's appealing to me right now. We're filming this in July. You can listen to it any time of the year, but we're filming it in July. And so this is what's popping right now for Matt and Tim in July.
So guys, welcome to the Collector's Corner. This is our chance to really talk about interesting things. And what we've done is we've given ourselves some cues. New cultivar, classic cultivar, underappreciated cultivar. What's looking great in the greenhouses right now? Weeping, red, green, variegated, customer favorite, and dwarf. So we're going to go through and talk about those, not in that order, but get excited, guys. This is just a fun way for us to talk about plants. If you're watching this on the YouTube version of our podcast, let us know in the comments whether or not you like this type of format, because this is something we may try again if it is something that you like.
Yeah, and if there's other questions you would like added to these, let us know about those questions. Maybe next time we could include that in our Collector Corner format. Also, if you like playing along, feel free to answer in the comments below on YouTube, or go to our Facebook Friends page. It's MrMaple Friends. And go give us your answers in there. We'd love to hear from you about each of these answers. Again, just for format reasons, this is being filmed in July, so these are kind of things that are catching my eye right now. You can enjoy these plants year round, but I like to preface that because when I do this in November, it'll be different. So these are things that are kind of catching our eyes that got Tim and I are very excited right now during this time of the year. They're things that are relevant to us right now.
Now, guys, we're going to start out with new cultivar. Ooh. We're going to start out with some of the hot stuff. What's hot, what's cool, what's exciting. Guys, I can't say a new cultivar, what's exciting, without talking about the hype train that is Red Panda.
It's coming back to MrMaple soon. I happen to know that. If it hadn't already dropped by the time this podcast is out, we will be doing continual drops of that one. We're doing our best to produce Red Panda in as many numbers as possible and at both farms. So it's in production everywhere. Guys, we're going to be continuing to make that a staple at MrMaple. So if you're something you're after, it's going to be one of those trees that shouldn't get hard to acquire. A lot of people, I reference Hot Blonde with them. A lot of people say, man, things sell out in 2 seconds. It's like, remember when that was Hot Blonde? So it's coming. It takes us a little bit to build up the numbers, but now we bring back Hot Blonde like 4 times a year. So Red Panda, same kind of deal. We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back in bigger numbers. We'll make sure everybody that wants one can get one. It's our favorite red Makawa form. So this one has that Makawa Yatsubusa shape, dense, compact habit, holds us red really well. I've been really enjoying people's pictures in our Facebook group. Brian Rule's been sharing what his Red Panda looks like this time of spring. I know Josh McLeod was sharing some pictures the other day of his in Texas and kind of those red new growth flushes. And that's how you know it's really got a lot of red in it, is those new growth flushes really embrace that spring color.
Now, Red Panda is an amazing tree. I think the hype sort of started growing even bigger than the tree itself. It's an amazing tree. But it was impossible to live up to the hype that Red Panda created. And it's this crazy thing where we evaluated, and Red Panda is the best red Makawa that's out there. We've evaluated against everything that's out there. We've went through thousands and thousands of Makawa Yatsubusa seedlings, and it's the best by far. But we mentioned it in one potting up video.
We're
talking about what size tree should you pot up your Japanese maple into, to making sure people didn't pot their tree into too big of a pot, which can slow it down. You can go check out that video if you want more information on that. But we mentioned we had a liner of red panda, and people just blew up. It blew up on social media. We started seeing red panda memes. We started seeing red panda, just daily things on red panda, just every day on the Mr. Maple Friends group. We've got a great community there, and it just started growing more and more and more about the hype of red panda.
Bruce Burt and Alan LaFoe, those guys are fun. The memes were great. I like the full panda hype. It was a lot of fun. And now our mission is to make it, a staple. Our mission now is to get it to anybody that wants it, to get it enough numbers that it's not that hard to acquire. We drop it on 10 at 10. We drop a couple hundred, and maybe they're on there for more than 5 minutes. So that's kind of the goal, guys. And we're continuing to work toward that.
And we have patented red panda, so it is a Mr. Maple exclusive. Mr. Maple and Buckholz Nursery will be the only people who will be growing the red panda. Y'all, this is an amazing plant. Again, we've compared it to all the other reds. That's the reason we patented it, and it is an amazing plant.
Yeah, so the original red panda, some of y'all may know the story in that. I did have a guy weeding my yard, and he'd passed it off to one of his workers that didn't normally come, and the guy did kill the original red panda with a weed eater. So it did get some irreparable damage at the base of it, and it didn't realize it early enough. The original one did pass, but there's something kind of cool that was going on in that original one. So this was a Makawa Yatsubusa seedling that we found and originated here at our farm. And the color was why we selected it.
And this is what you've got as your new cultivar on your side, correct?
I have to one-up my brother sometimes. So if Tim's dropping heat, I got to come after him. So I got to go second this time. And he actually suggested it. I was going to do Pink Panther, which is a dope tree we recently talked about. But, this is our first one of the Collector's Corner. So let's do something crazy. Guys, that original Makawa Yatsubusa Red Panda actually had a variegated sport on it.
Say what?
So we grafted that sport as well. So that also exists. So if you like red panda, there's like a lily pad kryptonite version of that as well in the works. We're calling that Pandamonium. So I'm going to throw one of the first pictures people have ever seen in here. Just kind of fun off the red panda hype. There is a variegated red panda out there.
So if you're listening on the audio format, there will be some photos accompanying this on the YouTube format. You can go check out some of the photos of these cool plants we're talking about. Guys, Pandamonium.
Kind of nuts. I put that name on just out of being goofy because, everybody was already into the full panda hype. and we noticed when we grafted it, a certain percentage of them were coming from that one sport. We have been able to sustain it to make sure that it's stable and to get it onto its own.
We've got a number of
Pandamoniums,
large Pandamoniums that we're starting to produce from now. So
and those are more variegated, so they're going to look a little bit more. Think about kind of. I would compare it a lot to lily pads variegation. So it's got that elongated leaf to it. So if you like that elongated,
a little more crunchy. Is that the way Kate Bradley described it? Right. You see a lot more variegation in there, and the leaves are a little more crunchy too.
It's going to be a fun one, but a variegated sport on red panda, Pandamonium. Again, it's just in the early stages. This will be at least another year before this one releases. We're going to continue to drop red panda continuously. We are isolating more stock plants continuously and making sure to get that Pandamonium. Just a little something extra there for you. So if you're a first-time Collector's Corner person, there's something crazy there for you. Pandamonium.
The Mr. Maple Friends group just went crazy again.
Right.
They're like, what? Pandamonium.
Cue the live chat. Like, oh no. It's like when Yoda told Luke Skywalker, there is another. Anyway, Pandamonium. It'll be hitting the market eventually. Cool plant, variegated red panda. It's real.
Matt, what do you have as your classic cultivar?
I went with a classic here that I love. I went with Acer Shirosolitum Aureum. Classic. We offered a good bit. Love the full moon leaf on that. I love that it's the classic Shirosolitum texture. It's just balling right now in July. Looking at it, it's still yellow. It's beautiful. It's looking great in the landscape. That new growth's got a lot of yellow on it. I've told the story, but I got to see the original one at Esfeld Plantinium. I was walking around there with Cor Van Gelderen, and he said, I can't be too mad if he steals something because we were founded on thievery, which got a good chuckle out of me. That's always a funny story to start with. And one of my favorite plant storytellers, Cor Van Gelderen, we'll have to get him on the podcast at some point. One of my all-time favorite plant people. I got to go there when DM Van Gelderen was still alive and take a picture with Peter Gregory and DM Van Gelderen, which was just like the pinnacle of...
I think Piet de Jong was in that photo as well.
Yeah, it was like six books in me.
Like some of the greatest scientific and analytical minds in maples ever right there.
Right. Piet de Jong, Flora of China, DM Van Gelderen, and Peter Gregory. So like Mount Rushmore for me as a young man. It was so cool to get in there with them. But his son, Cor Van Gelderen, is kind of who I like to go to if I want stories. He's one of my favorite people to follow around. If I'm in an arboretum and Cor's there, I'm not taking the tour. I'm taking the Cor tour. And his stories about Aureum were so much fun. He said Seabold sailed up onto the shore here and threw out the original Aureum, and then he was a thief. And so they accepted the gift from a thief. So if you stole something from his nursery, he couldn't be too mad at you. And I couldn't help but chuckle. And the original Aureum is planted there on the banks at Esfeld Plantinium. It's a couple hundred years old. I mean, it's Seabold, right?
I mean, Aureum is such a classic cultivar. I think it may be the same as Acer Shirasanum King Kuri. Mm-hmm. We have to remember that a lot of these trees that went to Europe and got Latin names already had a name that sort of was associated in Japan as beforehand. And King Kuri appears to be the same cultivar as Aureum. Not sure if it's exactly the same, but I can't tell them a difference. So
it's interesting. And you also wonder, too, Aureum wouldn't mean anything to anybody in Japan. So if the cultivar got to Europe without a name and came back to Japan, it would certainly need a Japanese name again. So you don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg sometimes, but we do believe those two to be synonymous.
Yeah, and it's often referred to as the golden full moon Japanese maple. And because of that common name, everybody just falls in love with it because it looks like a little moon out there. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the logo that was for Dick Vandermatt Nursery.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is such a classic, iconic leaf shape of what you think of a Japanese maple. And you think of a full moon Japanese maple, and you're like, wow, that is awesome. I know that in pop culture, in the Star Wars, they had a force-sensitive tree that looked like an Acer Shirasanum Aureum.
If they would have just stuck with the original script, we would never have Aureum in stock again, because all the Star Wars kids would be after Aureum. They were going to release a force tree that they drew the force from. And in the original comics, some of the drawings look like Acer Shirasanum Aureum. So how cool would that have been? We were just going to drop a seedling from Aureum and call it the Force, right? That would have been the money move right there.
I was watching the Acolyte the other day, and it looks like they're trying to replace it with like a yellow willow tree. I was like, bring back the Shirasanum Aureum force-sensitive tree. That would have been awesome.
Star Wars was better before they explained it too much. It was better when Yoda was just this crazy space frog. Now it's like, now I got to know that he screwed everything up. I don't like it as much. It's like, oh, he knew everything. We've given all of his backstory for the last 100 years before this. Man, he should have stopped all this. All right, getting into it for Tim now. Tim, what now right now in this time frame we're doing this? What's your classic cultivar pick?
Well, I had Makawa, but we just talked about Red Panda, so I'm going to go with Shishigashira.
Oh.
Shishigashira, to me, that is such a classic Japanese maple. When I think of a Japanese maple, I think about the 1700s list. Shishigashira, one of those early original Japanese maples. I mean, it stood the test of time. It is one of those trees that is uniquely different in its texture. It's got the crumpled up leaves, the tight, compact habit, the dark green color. It's a bulletproof. It's easy for people to grow. The name Shishi is basically talking about the female lion from Japanese literature. So it's kind of like saying, you've heard us say this, it's kind of like saying Minnie Mouse, essentially, because it's talking about a very specific lion from Japanese literature. There's Ojishi, which is the male lion. There's Meijishi, which is the baby lion. And Shishi, which is the female lion. So we're talking about the lion's head. And it's got such a good fall color. To me, it's hard to beat Shishigashira. And it's been a tree that we've grown here at Mr. Maple for years. I know Dad forever had this tree. And the second I started growing it, we fell in love with it. We started offering it available in 3 gallons first. And I think everybody who saw it said, man, I've got to have one of those Shishigashira.
Awesome pick for July because it's bulletproof. They're looking great right now. Again, the answers aren't indicative of just July, but it's what's enticing us right now. Hey, it's soon to be a broom on that one, but maybe we'll save that for a new cultivar highlight coming forward.
Let's save that one for a little bit later.
Can't give too much away in the collector's corner, but that's the kind of information you're going to get here. We've got a broom we're working on Shishigashira.
Now, Shishigashira is such an awesome tree. we've got some great sizes that we started offering through Mr. Maple, and every summer we're probably going to start doing more of that too, where we start offering the XL 1 gallons during the summer.
Bro, you've been shipping some 10s.
I know.
We've been shipping some big boys out on Shishigashira lately.
But we're also going to be offering a lot of XL sizes, and we've been doing that with Shishigashira lately. And to me, this is just a tree that makes a statement in the landscape because it contrasts with every other Japanese maple.
It's quintessential to being a Japanese maple collector. I mean, if you're doing the collector's corner, love you got Shishigashira in here early because it's hard to have a maple collection without Shishigashira. I mean, it's as classic as you can get.
All right, I'm going to start off with Underappreciated Cultivar. And to me, my one of the most underappreciated cultivars that I'm thinking about right now is Tsukasa Silhouette. And it's probably because I've seen some big specimens outside that we've got in some B&Bs. But Tsukasa Silhouette, it's easy to grow, it's vigorous, it's got a great fall color, and when people see a mature specimen of what Tsukasa Silhouette can do, you start to realize and appreciate the shape that Tsukasa Silhouette actually does in the landscape.
It's a baller plant. Like it's bulletproof too. I mean, it's small leaf green. It's one of the closest to the species, but that narrow, compact columnar habit with a nice narrow form to it just makes it a perfect tree, honestly. Great red fall color, durable as all get out. I mean, this thing, we've heard from Yanada Tanaka in Japan that this tree could be a street tree and was being used as a street tree in Japan. Well, he started selling to the city of Hendersonville. There's some street tree Tsukasas around the city of Hendersonville now, and guys are bulletproof. I mean, they're sitting there in a parking lot full of asphalt, and the thing looks amazing, growing like a weed, still narrow, still columnar, still compact and dense in its growth, but making a tall, skinny tree. It's perfect. One of the perfect plants, and a great pick for this time of the year too, because darn near bulletproof. They look excellent right now. They're not burned up. They're in drought conditions sometimes right now, and just takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Tsukasa Silhouette is one of the most durable cultivars I've ever seen.
Now, if you're coming to a Mr. Maple open house, which we typically have one on Memorial Day and one on Labor Day, if you're coming to one of our other open houses, or coming to do a pickup where you've ordered trees online and you're doing a pickup at my mom and dad's house, stop by Maple Street in Hendersonville. That's where you can see these Tsukasa Silhouettes down the street, but they've also got Pictums, Trident Maples, all different other types of cool trees that they've got from us here at Mr. Maple. They're on Maple Street in Hendersonville.
Maybe keep your doors locked though. All right. My underappreciated cultivar is Oregon Sunset. I love this plant. I think it's just outstanding. Our clip on the Maple Mafia channel, where we're walking around Sarah P. Duke and we talked about a Oregon Sunset, did pretty well. Went a little viral for that channel. Great looking plant. Oregon Sunset, so underrated. We recently did a top 5 most underrated plants of Buckholz Nursery. We went around and kind of talked about some underrated gems. Oregon Sunset, guys, that thing is a hitter. Like, it's got everything you want in a red that's medium-sized with outstanding fall color and a unique shape. Yeah,
to me, I fell in love with that tree the very first time I saw it I saw it at the J.C. Rouston Arboretum, and it just had this amazing, awesome shape. And then when I saw Ed Shins in New Jersey, NJ Acer, for many of y'all who are on social media, he had one of the most beautifully shaped Oregon Sunsets that I've ever seen. And the shape is just so special, how it goes up, arches out, and spreads out.
It's like a reverse lace leaf.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
It's like a U shape instead of an umbrella shape. And it just gives you a really weird, unique habit to it. It just wide but short, beautifully red.
And I like the fact that the leaves on the older growth are very much, bloodgood-like, but the new growth is very elongated and pointed. And it just goes to that funkiness that Oregon Sunset does, because it is one of the most unique Japanese maples that's out there.
Great fall color. That's where the Oregon Sunset really shows up. Orangey reds in the fall. You can get hues of orange to red going on in the same tree. Again, with that unique shape. That's why I put it under my underappreciated. It's one that I think if people saw specimens of more, they would, put it up there with Fire Glow. It should be selling out. It's a great plant.
Yeah, I mean, that is such an awesome plant.
All right, Tim, we're moving along. What's your favorite green going on right now? What green's catching your eye?
Guys, one of the greens I love is Festival.
Ooh.
And Festival is a selection that Talon Buckholz sent us after he came and visited Mr. Maple when the Maple Society had their meeting. Matt and I planned a Maple Society meeting here in the Asheville area. And after that visit, he sent a festival to us and one to Dr. Criticos. And he said, guys, this tree is going to become more popular, I think, the more people see it. And it was an amazing, clear, Kelly green, large leaf Demenum. I was like, this thing looks pretty sharp. But the fall color on this thing, yellows infused with oranges, and then later on get some reds. It is one of the most dynamic fall colored Japanese maples. And when I was thinking about green, I couldn't help but think about festival.
I mean, yeah, I just saved that one for fall myself. So, but again, awesome tree, guys. Talon claims that this was a seedling from Amber Ghost. Really unique, really interesting. It doesn't have any reticulation to it, but man, when it hits fall color, that thing is just insane. Yellows and oranges. I mean, into the same leaf, rivaling that of Acer japonicums. I've seen that very much rival Maiku Jaku for fall color, but it looks pretty good right now too. I mean, it's durable. It's beautiful. It's looking good in the summer. It's a green that's kind of got everything you want. I mean, it's going to maintain that green, Kelly green color very well, fresh, heat tolerant, and then just puts on an amazing display in the fall.
I like the fact that you compare this with a lace leaf, red lace leaf. You compare this with a red upright, or you compare this with something like Osakazuki that's going to have, the Osakazuki is going to go first to that maroon and then that more picked up red. And then this is going to go to more of those yellows and oranges primarily. And it's just a fun tree to have out there and play with and pair other Japanese maples with.
See, I like going second because now I'm going to dunk on you. I got Japanese lanterns, homie. I'm just kidding. I'm not dunking on you. Both those are great. Japanese lanterns, one of our own introductions. Love this plant. Guys, it has little lantern-like shapes. I love the lanterns. They look cool in the summer. The tree's a very wispy tree, so it doesn't grow in a regular pattern. It kind of throws on these long corkscrew-like shapes. It throws on these long whips that kind of have these lanterns hanging off of them. Orangey to red lanterns in the fall. The foliage cups back together, so the leaves look like little lanterns dangling, especially as you get more mature growth on it. As the tree ages, you get a lot more of the older growth looking like lanterns. Don't give this tree a lot of nitrogen. You can open it up with a ton of nitrogen. Let it just do its thing. It's vigorous. It's multi-stem typically, and a irregular growth pattern to say the least on this one.
But the thing that's cool about the irregular growth pattern is those long branches that come off allow you to display the Japanese lanterns very effectively, because you've got these long branches that go out and then you see the lanterns hanging off of it.
It'd be a dope plant for a cut flower farm that cuts maple branches to put in like vases and stuff, because you have those little lanterns hanging out of your vase. That'd be I've seen places cut some maple foliage, new growth shoots, and use them in arrangements. Japanese lanterns would be pretty cool for that, just because of the uniqueness and texture. But yeah, it looks like lanterns, super popular. It's been very heat tolerant for us. A lot of people in Alabama, southern Georgia, with these in sun. It seems to be quite the durable plant.
I remember when we were naming that, people were saying, Matt and Tim, it's a Japanese maple, shouldn't you just call it lantern? It's like, no, this is a Japanese lantern.
Right.
Like, this is a very distinctive lantern. So when you see that, you get that idea of, you see those Asian lanterns in the garden, and that's what draws you into this tree. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. It's like when you look at Naruto or one of those plants that means birds in flight, you can't unsee it. Once you hear Japanese lanterns with this plant, you can't unsee it. And then it becomes this thing where you're like, oh, look at all the lanterns across it. So it's such a fun tree for the garden.
One of my all-time favorites, MrMaple Original. We bring it back as frequently as possible, so check out Japanese lanterns. All right, bro, we're moving along to red cultivars. You want to go first? You want me to?
I'll go first. I'm going to say Edna Bergman.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
Edna Bergman is a red Amenum, but it's a little more divided back than a lot of Amenums. I mean, it's almost to that Matsumuri. Some people actually say Matsumuri is a subspecies of Amenum, and you can sort of see that whenever you look at Edna Bergman. It's more divided back. It makes a nice upright tree. I know we've got one not too far from across from your mailbox almost. And it is beautiful. The thing I love about this tree is it leaves out with some good red color. You get some green during the summer, but the fall color on this is one of the more picked up reds of any of the red uprights. And to me, Rara Flora Nursery, who introduced Edna Bergman, they've also introduced Pinus parviflora Bergman, Acer palmatum rara flora. If you see Bergman in the name, it's typically from the family of Rara Flora Nursery. And it is such an amazing plant. they had a very sophisticated taste in maples, because when you see this, you realize how different it is from what you see in the trade today on mini red uprights. But it just draws you in because of the unique texture and the strong, vibrant colors Edna Bergman gives. It's awesome.
You know, they inspired a lot of Billy Schwartz's love for trees, as he was a lawyer that was helping them with some things and fell in love with what they were doing. Absolutely love all of Rare Flora's introductions. Edna Bergman, I think, is at its max in early spring. I love that tree. You can get an underrated shade of pink red. Like the early spring color is it's a weird, almost like the sunset kind of color. You got a lot of pink to bold red going on there at the same time. It's a weird shade that's just, man, if you could hit that if you could show people what that looks like in the spring, they'd go crazy. Super underrated plant, one we keep producing here. A little obscure one, probably could be an underrated one as well, but I absolutely love Edna Bergman. That's a dope pick.
So Matt, what do you have as your red cultivar?
So I think a lot about different seasons. I actually originally had a different tree, and I'm thinking about, this July right now, Red Flash is really catching my eye. Like, that's what's catching my eye in the garden. I've got a nice size one at Maplewood Gardens over there at my parents' place. Red Flash comes out a really bright, picked up red, and then it fades to a bit more maroon. But that new growth right now over top of it is a red flash over top of the maroon. So you kind of get some of that bright red over top of deep red. It's just showing out right now. It's durable. It's heat tolerant. Typically around 8 to 10 foot in 10 years. These are going to work zones 5 through 9. Everything we've talked about so far is going to work zones 5 through 9, I should say. But just a showstopper for durability, for what looks great in July. I love the new growth flushes of this one. I think it gives it a little bit more picked up color.
I remember when Ghirardelli Nursery in Italy was really pushing this. A lot of the nurseries around the United States are starting to grow a little bit of it. I know Talon Buchholz definitely was. I know some 1 gallons when this tree first came out were selling for $75 for a foot tall.
I remember
Red Flash, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, it's an amazing tree. It's trying to be more of what you look for a standard perfect red upright with good red color across it, great shape, good fall color. But I was just like $75 for
That's insane.
A red upright that.
Standard 1 gallon.
Yeah, but now since we got one of those and then started producing from it, I'm really beginning to appreciate the tree more and more, especially as we have it there by Mom and Dad's driveway.
We'll always buy the plant at $200, and then we'll make a million of them available at $35. that's always Tim and I. We're like, how much is that? $200? I'll take one. And then we'll just produce from it. We'll make our money back over time, hopefully. But yeah, I love that plant. It's underrated. It's in the garden there at Mom and Dad's, and it just shows out. I mean, I think for this time of the year, it's hard to beat it.
Yeah, I mean, Red Flash is an awesome tree. The thing I like about it is it's just so dynamic there, and it's not too far from Mom and Dad's. They've just got so many trees around that area that contrast so well, from the Moonrise to the Acer Longapea's Gold Coin. There's so many cool plants in that area that just give a dynamic contrast with it. That's an awesome plant. The Golden Falls is right beside of it. I mean, the yellow plays real well against the Red Flash. All right, guys, coming up next, we've got a weeping cultivar. Matt, what do you have for your best weeping cultivar?
Fun little story with this one. I've got Acer palmatum Chika, tree from Japan. It was at a temple in Japan, how a lot of these weeping cool interesting trees get started. I like this one a lot. Chikako Kojima, our friend in Japan, Kojima named this one for his wife. Chika is shorter. Just a beautiful plant, elegant plant, weeping form to it. As pendulous as Ryusin. I would compare this one a little bit more to Aoyagi on the new growth coloration. Kind of has that real crisp, light Kelly green to it, so it sets it apart from Ryusin that way. Also has a little bit more lime green on the new growth. Just a showstopper, and a little bit more yellow orange on the fall color. I like the plant a lot. I think it has a graceful, elegant look, and I think it's particularly looks good right now in the summer. It's kind of got a glossier sheen to it.
Yeah, you raised a good point, Matt. That one does have a lot more green color than, say, something like Jiro Shidari, and it makes
still weeping like Ryusin though.
Yeah, you think that might actually be more of the entryway into possibly one day trying to find a more coral bark type of a weeping style, because it does have that green. Because it does have that lighter green color that is reminiscent of Aoyagi, so it definitely has some of that those traits to there already.
This is the collector's corner, Tim. It's not the breeder's corner.
No, I remember getting Chika and just freaking out because it is a cool tree from a temple in Japan. And it's kind of cool. You know, you start digging into these plants and you're like, this came from a temple in Japan. Rikuzen Shidari. This came from a temple in Japan. Like, there's so many cool plants that came from a temple in Japan. And Chika is definitely a tree that you don't find many other places. Matt and I really try to amp up numbers and try to make these cool trees like this available, because there's nowhere else that's doing this. There's nowhere else that's finding these trees around the world and making them available so that people can have this plant that was at a temple in Japan. I mean, it is awesome. The thing I like about this tree is it has a really nice, crisp yellow to orange fall color on it as well. And just with its strong weeping habit and that more on that yellow side in the fall, it is something that is truly special and different. And, you know, it may not really be in that Nakakamado weeping legacy like many of the other weeping styles are as well.
Shout out to Hisanori and Chikako Kojima. Just great people. They came and visited our nursery back in the day when they were interning at Brian Upchurch's place. Just such fun people. Both of them were here grafting, and they came by Mr. Maple. So one time when we were close to their house in Japan, we said we had to go visit them. That's been over 7. My daughter's 7 now, so it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago since we were there. I can only imagine their kids are getting pretty big. Their 4 children. Just wish them the best. Really fun people, and just interesting people to talk to about maples. It's fun to have that common ground with people. They introduced us to tonkatsu. It was the first time I had tonkatsu in Japan. Was with them.
Fried pork.
This southern boy was right at home. It's like, y'all got fried pig? Count me in, man. Got some barbecue sauce for that and some coleslaw.
I know when we got back from Japan, we were searching for tonkatsu sauce, which just means barbecue sauce.
It's a Japanese barbecue, but they always serve it a certain way. It's always got like miso and like a coleslaw like component to it, kind of deal. It's not really coleslaw. It's like a chopped cabbage, but kind of gets the job done there. So love me some tonkatsu.
So for weeping cultivar, I've got Acer palmatum Golden Falls.
Ooh,
now
great one for the summer.
Yeah, it's one of those trees that you give it some sunlight, and it's really going to have a dynamic presence. To me, my favorite time for this tree is the early spring, though. Because when you have the orange border around it with the yellow in the interior, Matt summed it up best and said it looks like Katsura in the spring, but it's strongly weeping and it's more yellow throughout the summer. And you give this tree some sunlight and it gives you that Ryusen style feel, but with some bold yellow colors in the garden.
Yeah, I love Golden Falls. Can't say enough nice things about it. You know, our nursery actually introduced this one. I'm not used to saying that, but it was at Buckholz Farm, so it's part of our collection now. Amazing weeping yellow, durable, vigorous, great colors. You get that kind of reddish border to it in the early spring with that yellow. That's where it's kind of reminiscent of Katsura. Holds its color one of the best. So right now, even in July, it still looks pretty doggone good. I mean, it's pretty good looking for a yellow during the season. Tends to be the most sun tolerant of any of the weeping yellows. I still do recommend some late day shade, especially in the hotter zones. Baller oranges and reds. I mean, normally bold red for us in the fall. Outstanding plant. It gets about as big as you stake it. I like to stake it up to about 5 or 6 feet.
And we were one of the first retail nurseries to actually have Golden Falls. The way that happened is we were evaluating one of our yellow weepers, Dragon Master, that we introduced to the Area 51 collection, and Talon Buckholz was introducing and evaluating Golden Falls. And so we swapped just to see, you know, how each other's plants were and compare them against our own. And we think they are distinctly different and they all stand out on their own, which is awesome because there needs to be more yellow plants out there in the landscape. I love what yellow does, how it brings out all the other colors. You know, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I go through it in every single video, but Golden Falls is just amazing. And seeing the original Golden Falls beside the Yellow Cascade, that video we did, the original Yellow Cascade and the original Golden Falls, and you look at those two side by side, you really start to even see the distinctive differences between those two introductions by Talon Buckholz himself.
All right, guys, we're up here at our favorite variegated plant. This one's my favorite variegated in every season, so I'm gonna have to not use my same answers the next time we do Collector's Corner. I'll get some new people in here like Brian and Sean, talk to them a little bit too to hear what everybody's fired up about. But you know my favorite variegated plant. It's my favorite variegated plant in every season, and that's Firefly. I love Firefly. I like how it looks in spring. I like how it looks in summer. I like how it looks in fall. I just love this plant. It's my favorite variegated tree. Love it.
Yeah, Firefly is just one of those plants that just continues to change all throughout the seasons. You look at this tree in the early spring, and you really can get some pink colors in there with purple borders, with white interior. It just changes and morphs throughout the season. And one of my favorite times is the summer flush of growth in the summer. I mean, you can get some crazy variegation with strong reticulated variegation where you see the veins of the leaf late in the season. It's got a strong upright habit. It's got some really good fall color. We actually put the name Firefly here on it at Mr. Maple, although it was another nursery who found it. They had originally were working with the name Moonfire. And when we realized that Moonfire has been a tree that's been in the trade since the early 90s, they said, oh, why don't we put a better name on it? And Firefly hit. And I'm telling you, that is one of those plants that I'm really glad that we got to put a name on and introduce into the nursery trade as Firefly.
Love it. Again, it'll be hard for me to pick another variegated one next time now that I've used my favorite. Shout out to Chris Adler. He sent me some of his artwork of his photography of Firefly. Absolutely love this plant. And if you get one, you'll see why too. It's a photographer's dream. It changes every single part of the season. Sometimes this time of year you can have like some fiery reds of new growth flushes over top of it. It just changes so much every single week. So what you got? What's your favorite variegated?
The way we do this is we have a queue, and I think about variegated Japanese maples. When I think about variegated Japanese maples, my mind instantly pops out Lilian's Jewel. Lilian's Jewel is a good one. Red Matsumuri with pink and white variegation, found by Jonathan Savage, who was working with Dolaux. This is his nephew, and Jonathan found this and named this after his daughter, Lilian. And this is, to me, one of the most stable variegated Japanese maples that I've ever seen. It just is super heat tolerant. It is beautiful all throughout the season. It has good fall color. When you see the pink and red, the red, just being in fall color, that brighter red and that hot pink in the fall, it's electric. To me, it has a gorgeous shape where it's upright and semi-pendulous, almost like burgundy lace-like, but variegated. This tree is what I think of when I think of a variegated Japanese maple.
You can't go wrong with Lilian's Jewel, one of my all-time favorites, probably the people's choice for variegated. We've sold a ton of them over the years. Shout out to Jonathan. Called him the other day, catching up with him. It's good to hear he's doing so well. God, just came up with an absolute golden Japanese maple. I mean, this one is treasure. I absolutely love Lilian's Jewel. It just brings so much to the table. It's probably one of the most stable pink on reds there'll ever be. Great plant. We sell a ton of them here at Mr. Maple. We produce a ton of them here at Mr. Maple. I couldn't even tell you the number of these that sell in a year. I bet it's up there for overall sales for the year. Absolutely phenomenal tree. Very stable too. We've found a few that revert every now and then, but for the most part, Lilian's Jewel is the best pink on red of that like rainbow style for actually holding both pink and red. We've got some massive ones up at the Buckholz farm. I mean, they're in 40 gallons and they're variegated to like the teeth. I mean, they have all their variegation. They're amazing. Just a great plant all around. I think you'll love Lilian's Jewel. That's a great pick, bro.
I love the fact too that we just got on the groundbreaking floor. Like, we got to be friends with Dell and Jonathan, and we were one of the first people to actually be able to purchase a 3-gallon. We both got 3 gallons. We got a 3-gallon, and our good friend Richard Bomar got a 3-gallon. And it was just one of those cool things to be able to get one of these Japanese maples that's groundbreaking, that's new, that's awesome first. And since then, some people have tried to misname it with a few names. There's Little Annie's Jewel. Guys,
that one's the worst.
It's Lilian's Jewel. And then some people were calling it Extravaganza. No, guys, this is Lilian's Jewel.
Yeah, I've met Lilian. That's his daughter. And hey, don't change a tree a daddy named after his daughter. That's not cool. Great plant, though. Love it. Grab you a Lilian's Jewel today. All right, man, we're moving along. How about Dwarf cultivars?
Now, when I was thinking about Dwarf, our YouTube channel started with the ultimate dwarf, Acer palmatum Saiho. So that's what I'm going with. Saiho is a tree that, Matt and I were one of the first people in the United States with as well. Very tight, dense dwarf, small leaves, one of the smallest leaves of any of the Japanese maples. And it's vigorous, tight, and dense. The leaves are small, but the new growth flushes in the summer are even smaller. And that just gives a unique texture if you're growing this in the ground. But also it's a fun tree that you could air layer and do as a bonsai as well.
I see how it is. You just pick trees that you did videos for. You can go back and check us out in that era. I'm not sure I'm any skinnier, but my hair's a little less gray. Love Saiho. It is the quintessential bonsai for so many reasons. Tiny foliage, purple border, durable, colorful, grows from within, so it makes more of a rounded ball structure than it does like a Kiyohime toadstool structure. So it's not going to be that low dome. It's going to be more of a rounded small ball. And I think from that interior growth that it keeps putting on, it's a bonsai artist's dream because you get to cut out a lot. You get a lot of shaping. You get a lot to work with from within the plant.
Yeah, Saiho is one of those plants that I've seen a lot of customers come in and actually purchase multiple Saihos, especially in the early days when people would just come here and shop in person because they see how the structure this plant makes. And we see the structure that Saiho makes in the landscape. You realize this would make a really cool border. This would make a really cool mass planting. And, you know, it'd be cool to pair this and throw this around and pair this around with some Hime Sojos and just have a very unique garden mass planted with Japanese maples.
All right, so when I was thinking about one of my favorite dwarfs for this time of the year, I went with Catalina Yatsubusa, and this is by Angel and Catalina. Great plant. Friends of ours that named this one for his wife. Catalina Yatsubusa has just a really fun summer color. It gets a lot of weird textures to it right now. I love that it kind of gets a little more stringy in the new growth right now. It looks like Lilian a little bit right now. The variegation's even more funky in the summer. I think it sets itself apart more from something like Lily Pad right now. You can see a lot of the distinctions between the two. But I think Catalina Yatsubusa is just showing out in the greenhouse.
Now, Catalina Yatsubusa has a little more upright habit than Lily Pad too. I mean, Lily Pad gets its name because it was low and spreading out like a lily pad. Catalina Yatsubusa has more of that Makawa Yatsubusa typical shape with a little more upright form. And it is an amazing variegated Makawa. I think we've offered it so frequently on Mr. Maple that it may not get the same hype because people actually have it in their garden.
We got big numbers in it. It's funny. People are like, well, you know, that one doesn't sell out. It must not be as good. It's just funny because the difference is, well, we offered 2,000 of them versus 200. So yeah, the thing that's got 2,000 tends to stick around longer. We sell probably more of this one than many of the others besides Makawa Yatsubusa because we simply have been able to obtain bigger numbers and keep it going. Catalina Yatsubusa is dope. And I think one of the things about the variegated Makawas are I like the variegation better on them in the summer. Like I think they come out a little less striking in the spring, but like kind of right now is I think when they come into their own. Like there's some of the cooler looking plants walking through the greenhouses.
Yeah, I mean, I think relish was one of the first plants that I got that really I started to notice that it shined in the summer with its variegation. Mm-hmm. Like the variegation wasn't as prominent in the early spring, but in the summer, it was amazing. And Catalina Yatsubusa is kind of that way. You have a unique texture that's different than Makawa Yatsubusa in the early spring because the leaves are shaped slightly different than Makawa because of the way the variegation is. But when the summer hits, that's really when it starts to come into its own and really starts to shine.
All right, y'all, we're going to move along. Now, Tim didn't say I had to pick Japanese maples for every one of these. This is the collector's corner, so I get to talk about anything I'm collecting from Mr. Maple here. I've recently, been up on some of my game on some of my other plants. This one I've had for forever. What's looking great in the greenhouse right now? We've only got 2 more questions on this collector's corner. I hope you've liked this new format we're playing around with. Tim, what's looking great for you in the greenhouse right now? What's your pick?
My pick is Acer Shirasalanum Bronze Age.
Ooh.
This is a selection by Talon Buchholz. His wife, Haruko, says this is her favorite selection that he's ever done. And to me, Bronze Age is one of those trees that once you see it, you begin to appreciate it more and more. Right now, you had that bronze color in the spring. Mm-hmm. You've got green. It's faded to more of a green. New growth right now is returning to that bronze. And that's where it's looking really sharp. When it hits fall, though, it might make this list again because it becomes one of our employees' favorite trees. They all start buying them up. When you see this tree in the fall, you get yellows and really a clear yellow with hints of orange sometimes in it. To me, it's an amazing quintessential Japanese maple that is, the more it gets out there, the more people fall in love with it. And we always talk about what's in the name. Bronze Age draws you into this Acer Shirasalanum. The bronze color makes you realize how awesome this tree is, and you're just drawn to it. You see the Acer Shirasanum-like leaf, a little more divided than a typical full moon maple. Good, strong, upright habit. This is a tree by Talon Buchholz from the Floral Wonder Collection that I think is looking hot right now in the greenhouse. And to me, it's a tree that's hard to beat almost any time of the season.
That's a great choice. I mean, you could say what's looking good in the greenhouse right now in any season, and you could probably come up with Firefly and Bronze Age, which, like I talked about Firefly earlier, they just keep changing. They keep looking good. A lot of our employees really gravitate to that one in the fall, when that fall color's hitting, because it's so striking. You can't go wrong with that one. I mean, it's going to be a good choice no matter what the season. Now, I went with Thunderhead, Japanese black pine Thunderhead, Pinus thunbergii. One of the reasons I went with that right now is they're candling. They look great. They're very lush. You know, I think it'd be in July. I think about it being hot, muggy a little bit. Man, the Thunderhead pines just look awesome right now.
The reason I love Thunderhead is I love Pinus thunbergii. And with Thunderhead, you get a denser, more compact form of the Japanese black pine. Now, Thunderhead is one of these plants that is used in landscape. It's been used for years because it's slower growing than your typical black pine, but it also is just so resilient. Pinus thunbergii are just known for being resilient. They've got long needles that show off in the landscape, but the hardiness this tree gives, it can handle salt spray, which is crazy. Most pines can't. It can handle high heat. It can handle sun, but it can also handle more shade. I've grown this in our greenhouses, 55% white poly, besides the Japanese maples, right in line with them, and it's thrived and done well in the more shaded situation, which is so surprising. I mean, most conifers can't kind of handle that type of shade. And when you're looking at Pinus thunbergii, it's awesome in itself. And Thunderhead just gives you that tighter, dense form. I know that if you go around to some Bojangles and some Burger Kings around here in this area, you see some old Thunderheads.
That's where you go for landscaping.
Yeah. I mean, someone back in the day they knew what was up. And they've planted a lot of Thunderheads around the area. And guys, they know that this tree rocks it out, especially with age.
Hey, if it's looking good in front of a fried chicken restaurant that's main colors are neon yellow and neon red, that thing's looking pretty darn good. These work zones 5 through zone 10. Very heat tolerant. Thunderhead's very popular for bonsai for obvious reasons. Japanese black pines look awesome as bonsai. Thunderhead are durable, so you can play with them. It's a great one to put in a big container and then find the perfect spot. Heat tolerant is all get out though. I mean, this is a zone 10 conifer. So a lot of you guys that have a little bit more humid, a little bit hotter climates, think about a Thunderhead. It's one that's actually going to perform and do well for you. And it's what's looking great to me right now in July, because Thunderhead's hard to beat.
Now, for our next topic, which is customer favorite, we actually went back to our sales platform and said, hey, what was in the last month? What's been some of the hottest items that we've sold on Mr. Maple? For mine, I've got Acer Shirasanum Moonrise.
Ooh.
And Moonrise is a selection by our good friend Carl Munn. It is a full moon Japanese maple. We've talked about a lot of those on this podcast. And it, to me, is one of the most heat tolerant of the full moon Japanese maples with that traditional full moon leaf. But it's also one of the most colorful. And that's one of the reasons where this tree shines is you get lime green foliage with that full moon round leaf, but then you get pink reds and apricots coming across us all throughout the summer. It's hard to beat Moonrise for the color it provides in the garden, for it's easy to grow. I mean, it's a little more easy to grow for many people in a more sunlit situation than something like Autumn Moon. Guys, to me, there's no reason. It makes perfect sense why the customer favorite is Moonrise for the month, this last month.
It is a hitter. It's a great plant. It's phenomenal. You've heard us say a lot of good things about Carl Munn's introduction there. One we're going to continue to produce here and at Buchholz Nursery for years to come. Absolutely showstopper. Moonrise, one of the best trees out there. It's popular in Europe now. Everywhere it goes, that tree just continues to gain in popularity. It has everything you want in a showstopper plant. It's got color, it's got diversity, it's got great fall color, shape, texture. Everything about Moonrise is just top notch. I absolutely love that plant. Now, my choice was off the same 10 at 10. So we actually dropped some fire on that 10 at 10. I believe that 10 at 10 had Firefly, Moonrise, and Flamethrower. So I'm going with another non-maple for the people's choice right now. People have been grabbing a lot of our red buds. We've been offering a lot of cool red buds lately. Flamethrower recently has really, really been popular for us. We had some great looking 1 gallons. If this continues to be popular at this level, we'll probably keep bringing back some new drops on it because it's one we're going to continue to produce and have in stock. Absolutely love flamethrowers though, and we've been offering some great size 1 gallons.
When I think about flamethrowers, you just think about that fiery color, and that's what flamethrower does. You get that bright red new growth maturing to the yellow color. I mean, bright red, then that yellow color, and it's just the dynamic contrast on the leaves itself are amazing.
Oh, it's insane. The colors are so striking. Everybody loves this one. Dennis Warner hit it out the ballpark. We'll have to get him on our podcast. Phenomenal red bud, native to North America. Great plant. Now, I even they sell this one as Europe. They call it Eternal Flame in Europe. Maybe I'm a redneck. I own a flamethrower, so I like that ours in America is called Flamethrower. I'm like, heck yeah, buddy, flamethrower. I own a flamethrower. It's a lot of fun. Not just a plant.
Now, flamethrower is an amazing, amazing plant. Red buds in general bloom with red buds in the early spring before the leaves come on. And then when you see that heart-shaped foliage coming on afterwards, it's a bright red. But this tree really begins to shine its most in July and August. When you start getting to that late summer and the red new growth from the spring has pushed out, that's starting to mature to the yellow. Mm-hmm. And then you have that red new growth coming across this on top of that. It's one of those trees that when you see it, you fall in love with it. And that's the reason why there's such hype behind flamethrower, because it looks like a made-up tree. And when you have trees that look like they're made up, it's pretty awesome.
This one's going to work zone 6 through 9. I always let you know on the different ones. All the palmatums we talked about today are 5 through 9. The Thunderhead was a little different at 5 through 10. The flamethrower is 6 through 9. I saw this growing in full sun at the Dallas Arboretum. I'd love to go and check in now. That's July and see how those trees are doing. Tends to do a little bit better on the color with some sunlight. If you're at least getting some early morning sun, you're going to have more picked up shades. Interestingly enough, the red buds are at their coolest right now through September. I mean, this is really red bud foliage season. They look crazy on the flowers in the spring because you get those bright purple flowers, but really right now is one of my favorite times for the most extravagant foliage display.
I don't understand how anything handles full sun down there in Texas.
Right.
I can barely handle full sun in the spring coated down with sunscreen. Right. You can smell me from a mile away.
And is that a good thing? Is that the sunscreen?
That's the sunscreen. You can smell me from a mile away. People are like, man, it smells like the beach. Oh, here comes Tim. And
he just likes coconuts a lot.
But I can barely handle it that in the springtime. And here we've got this tree handling full sun, year round. That's just insane. It's just so impressive how resilient plants are.
Yeah, and I like that we kept the flamethrower name. They got it in Europe second, so I'm sure they were like, you can't sell flamethrowers in Europe. But I like the freedom of it. It sounds a little more freedom and loving when
America
I hear flamethrower. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'm sticking with that one. It's got a little extra kick to it to me. I like the sound of it. So guys, that's our collector's corner for today. So we're basically going through and giving you some of our hot picks right now. If there are future questions you would like to see added to our collector's corner, let us know. We didn't cover every single topic here. These won't be static. We may change these around a little bit in our upcoming ones and talk about different topics. But this is kind of a new segment we want to do where we kind of give you our picks. It's kind of like an individual 10 at 10 for what's popping right now. Or even better example is a little bit longer top 5. What's popping right now in your top 5?
Well, I like it because it allows Matt and I to talk about things that we really like. And after shooting 1,300 videos with my brother and I, and we've covered an expansive amount of topics, it just gives a fun way and a fresh look at talking about Japanese maples.
Well, you definitely know with this, it's our top pick. So it's all plants we want to talk about. Give us some suggestions, though. If there's ways you'd like to see this show improved, we'll definitely be bringing in Brian, maybe Sean, some different people around Mr. Maple to give us their collector's corner choices as well. Maybe future collectors can hop on here and we can kind of give them the preface ahead of time, have some people on the show. But if this is popular, we may throw it in here once a month or once every other month or something, just to kind of let you know what's catching our eye at the nursery right now and just give you a fun, another way to talk about plants.
So hope you enjoyed today's collector's corner. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.